America is watching. The murder of Henry Nowak is no longer just a British story. It's not just confined to the United Kingdom, because all across America tonight, the media are looking at Britain and asking one question: how did it get this bad? This was Fox News last night.
When the left wing is in charge, you're not safe. Well, unless you're a member of the protected class du jour. The entire system of policing there is infected by the woke edicts of their overlords. Digwa himself was eventually arrested, sentenced to life in prison, but get this, he may only do as little as 21 years. His victim, however, never reached the age of 21. The influx of migrants, mass immigration, refugees, the coddling of criminals, the targeting in many ways, at least they feel that way, of native-born Brits, the old British system, in decline. I think it's in despair.
Elsewhere, this was the Megyn Kelly show. Take a look.
It's despicable. Every single cop on that scene should be fired.
I have to give some responsibility here to Keir Starmer. This is Keir Starmer's Britain. You know, he is Neville Chamberlain 2.0.
You know, when I put my ex-cop hat on, knives obviously can kill, but so can the woke mind virus.
Imagine if the races were reversed. Right. There would be riots in the street. There were.
And this was also primetime media Will Kane on Fox News last night.
A white teenage kid is dying on a street in England, and you can hear him tell police he can't breathe, just like George Floyd in 2020. So why do some victims become symbols while others do not?
It didn't stop there. This was real America's voice.
And the identity, the us against them, that's not something that white people ever sought. That's not something that white people ever looked for at all. But it's been imposed. And it's here. And it's happening. Why is it that every single other group is able to have an identity other than white people?
This is how America now sees us in Britain. They cannot believe what our country has become. The land of Churchill, Magna Carta, common law, now being held up as a warning sign. The grooming gang scandal, the Manchester Arena bombing, Valdo Calicain, Axel Rudabakana, the illegal migrant boat crisis in the Channel. Again and again, critics say British institutions ducked difficult questions. They avoided uncomfortable truths and put political sensitivities ahead of public safety, all at the altar of so-called anti-racism. And now, after the killing of Henry Nowak, the rest of the world is asking whether Britain's leaders have completely lost the courage to say what ordinary people can plainly see. With me now is Don Keith, the host of The Real Beef Show. Don, great to see you. You've been very vocal about the Henry Nowak case on social media over the past couple of days, and it's fair to say that it's not just touched and infuriated Brits like me and my viewers back home, but also you guys here in America.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, anytime a story from Britain makes it to America on the mainstream that doesn't have something directly to do with politics, you know it's a big story. This has gone international. It's a big deal, not only because of the tragic way that this young man died and his life was taken for him. He was murdered, callously murdered, but the handling of it afterwards by the police, and now the aftermath by the British government, by the Labour Party, by Parliament. It's a total different reaction than we saw when George Floyd was killed by a policeman. We saw Parliament gave a moment of silence. We saw police officers in America and in Britain kneeling down. We're not getting that same treatment for Henry Nowak. Where's his moment of silence from Parliament? Where are the officers kneeling? You know, I just saw yesterday in the Southampton protest, the protesters there were asking the police officers to kneel, and the police officers there refused. Why is George Floyd's death so much more important to the police officers and to the politicians than the death of Henry Nowak? So it's just really tragic indeed. And I have to agree with folks like Jack Posobiec, who says, you know, when are white people going to get their recognition, when they're going to be treated equally? That's not happening right now. You gave a couple of examples there. It seems like every week in Britain now we're seeing another example of white folks getting the short end of the stick. We saw just recently the two girls who were raped. Their rapists got off without any jail time. We know that's now gone up for appeal. Keir Starmer, after public backlash, just sent that up for appeal. Sheffield. We've got the white police officer who was attacked by Muslim men in Manchester. That guy got off with no jail time, basically acquitted because of a hung jury. White preachers being arrested for preaching on the street. White women arrested for praying silently in their head near abortion clinics. We've got according to Lord Malcolm Pearson, the 250,000 girls raped since the turn of the century by predominantly Pakistani Muslim men. And then we've got the political targeting of people on the streets, figures who try to utilize that supposed free speech that Keir Starmer told Donald Trump and J.D. Vance that you have still in the Oval Office. We see now that there's more than 12,000 arrests of British citizens for nonviolent speech offenses. These folks are mostly white, trying to speak their mind. So where is the justice for white folks? And you just can't blame them for the outrage.
Today's the day.
Congrats, you've earned a loyalty badge.
Is your loyalty being taken for granted? At Skipton, we reward our members with access to exclusive offers. Skipton Building Society, founded on fairness.
Inch's cider is packed full of British apples for a juicy, crisp, and properly appley taste.
Yeah, I think 12,000 arrests, the data was from a few years back, 12,000 arrests for social media posts. I don't think there was a breakdown of demographics, but I mean, all your points there, just listening to them, Don, I'd forgotten about lots of those examples, and there you are reeling them off to me, and I'm thinking in my head, goodness me, we really are in a pretty sticky situation. First of all, why do Americans care so much what happens our side of the pond? Why are you so sort of emotive and touched by it?
Well, as I see it, Great Britain is the litmus test for the rest of Western civilization. You're not as big as America, but you do have 80 million people. You're a small island nation, and like I said, you're the litmus test. If you can fall, that lets me know that it's possible in America. It's possible for the rest of Europe and Western civilization. So everyone's watching Great Britain really close right now. Listen, Great Britain was supposedly the birthplace, the birthplace of modern democracy. Things like free speech, your Bill of Rights that we took from you and adopted a lot of your principles. Obviously, Great Britain got it from the Greeks, but in the modern times, Great Britain is supposed to be that example for the rest of the world. And right now they're failing utterly at being that shining example they're supposed to be under this Labour government. It's really reprehensible what Great Britain has come to and the freedoms that you're losing exponentially. Really, it seems like daily there's another freedom being taken from you, or some proposed legislation by this Labour government to infringe on the freedoms of the people of Great Britain.
Don, what do you make of people who will be watching this maybe live now, or they'll see a clip later on when it goes online, and they'll say, well, Don's just an American, he's just a Yank who's over-egging it, everything's fine in Britain. Yes, we've got a few problems. The murder of Henry Nowak wasn't race-related. I mean, on that point, I'd say, well, Hampshire police had a race action plan saying they'd prioritise ethnic minorities. But what do you say to those people who just say you're just some far-right American crank beaming into us from wherever you are in the States?
Well, I'd ask them to define far right. Who gets to define what far right is? It seems to me the only people that are deemed far right by this Labour government are folks who agree with their ideology. I don't see myself as far right. To me, the folks in Great Britain, the friends I have in Great Britain, what's really far right, what they consider far right, are people who agree with the traditional moral value system of Great Britain, the traditional legal system, things like freedom of speech that I mentioned before, none of this rapid mass migration, none of this 15-minute cities and the digital ID. People just want to be free. And the folks who enjoy their individual liberty, something we cherish here in the United States, that's looked at as being far right. It's a really ridiculous premise to call folks who just want to be left alone to live their lives and raise their children, have their families, worship their God, and just be left alone by the government. They're deemed far right.
Yeah, Don, and actually, I don't think anyone cares anymore what they're called. You know, you can throw around the term racist, you can throw around far right, and all the other sort of disgusting things they throw at people. I don't think anyone really cares anymore. Too much has happened. There's too much water under the bridge. Like I said, with the Manchester Arena bombing, the Ariana Grande concert, the security guard didn't approach the suicide bomber because he thought it was scared he'd be called racist. He thought the guy looked suspicious. He had a dodgy backpack on his back, and he didn't approach him because he thought he'd be called racist. One example of many. And what happened? 22 people died. So if it means, you know, saving lives, saving the lives of little girls and small girls and boys like Henry Nowak, call us what you want. I don't care. Don, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with us. Don Keith, host of
Thank you for having me.